Okay, Paul Jones, can you hear us? Ben Stanley, Ben Vanoy, Ralph?
I can hear you, Commissioners. This is Ben Stanley. Can hear you fine.
Ben Vanoy?
I can hear you, Commissioner. Paul Jones.
Paul's got it. Okay, Ralph?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
And Mr. Vanoy, are you there?
I can hear you, Commissioner.
Gotcha.
Hopefully if one of them here, they can all hear.
Okay. Oh, we got them on the sidelines if necessary. Okay. We'd like to welcome everybody to today's Board of Commissioners meeting. And we invite someone to provide as we always do, a prayer, reading, or thought, followed by someone else to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Anyone here that could do either? Sheriff, the pledge, thank you. Prayer by anyone? Then we'll bring it up here. Oh, ma'am. Thank you. Nope, not you this time. Sorry. No cowboy hats allowed. Yeah. Okay, ma'am, please. And yes, ma'am, please.
Our dear Father in heaven, we come before thee on this beautiful day with gratitude in our hearts for all the blessings that we enjoy as a nation and as individuals. We're grateful for good men and women who have given time and energy to help protect us and to defend our liberties. We ask that thy spirit would rest upon this meeting, that hearts can be unified and perspectives understood so that there can be little contention and much appreciation. We're grateful for our Savior. We're grateful for all that we have been blessed with. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 The audience, rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
And Mr. Chair, just for point of information, the young lady there, I'll say young lady, that said our prayer just barely moved into our neighborhood here, being in the Provo area. So welcome.
Thank you.
We need her name for the minutes.
What was your name? We'd like to add it to the minutes. Courtney Ellison. Thank you, Courtney. Okay, we have two recognitions, and we'll start with the Employee of the Month first. This comes from their Chief Deputy of the Clerk Auditor's Office, Taylor Williams. When I think about who the linchpins in our office are, Deneen Jackson is one of the first to come to my mind. Deneen, are you here?
She's right there.
There she is, standing in the back. You should be up here in the front so we can embarrass you more. She has made herself indispensable to the county, and I know that I'm not the only person who feels that way. In my time in the Clerk Auditor's Office, I've seen time and time again how she exhibits the behaviors that make a world-class operation. As to her professionalism, Deneen is a master at her craft. She puts in the effort to do a peak performance job on everything she does. She goes above and well beyond in big ways and in small, and it shows in her work product. As a quick example, Deneen doesn't just take assignments, but follows up and reports on the status. It's small things like these that set her apart, and anyone who deals with Deneen understands her value to the county. Her technical knowledge of accounting, her understanding of Utah County's operations, her institutional knowledge, and the value it brings. As to her high standards, when I review her work, I frequently comment her because she sets the bar very high. As an example, this quarter we went through and did a one-on-one interview with all members of the staff. Denine's report about her team was the best across the whole department. I feel like I got 5 years worth of information just from reading her notes. As an excellent leader, one thing that distinguishes managers from leaders is their relationships with those they oversee. I have experienced firsthand Denine to go to bat for her direct reports. She compliments and encourages them. She asks upper-level management to ensure a team is fairly compensated for their work and raises the issue. She acts as a coach. She exemplifies what a good leader should do. And I believe Denine would be an excellent choice for Employee of the Month, particularly if she's never been given this award in her roughly 20 years of service to the county. Denine, thank you. Come on up here for a sec. When did you find out?
This is as uncomfortable a place for me as I would expect it to be. I appreciate those kind words from someone who I admire very much, but I want to express like this isn't a team effort. You know, the finance department touches every department in the county and is really who the citizens look to for how sometimes the government is performing. And I certainly wouldn't be able to do my job without the help of all of the county departments and my management with Josh and Taylor and Jeremy, and of course the commission helping to provide resources. There was a long time where I was doing a lot of work by myself, and so I appreciate the support from the commission too. So thank you all.
Yeah, more than once you told me, hold on there, you got to consider this or that when we were talking about things in the past. So thank you, Denine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stand up front with us. Sure.
I was hoping someone would
I know, right? At least.
Okay, this next one, we actually already did it last week, but because the other commissioners had not seen it, we had discussed it in close, and then we brought it back into a regular agenda, and then read it at that time, and it was recorded audibly, and there's no video. So we wanted to have decent recognition for our sheriff's department, but particularly all of law enforcement throughout the county. And so we've asked and done something a little unusual, and that is we're going to present this the second time. And so with that, for everyone's information, May 16th to the 20th is National Law Enforcement Recognition, or at least National Law Enforcement Week. And we have the opportunity to recognize and thank law enforcement of every level and every jurisdiction where we possibly can. And for us at the Utah County Sheriff's Department have been outstanding. And so we wanted to say something about this. With that, I will go ahead and read the resolution. Again, it's published as of the 4th of May, a week ago, but we want everyone to see it as well as hear it and see some of those that represent our county, the very best of our county. And with that, this is a resolution in support of Utah County law enforcement officers. Whereas the men and women of our nation's law enforcement agencies are sworn to valor and integrity in defense of the people's constitutional rights, and in that role wear their uniforms with dedication, honor, distinction, and integrity, and whereas they are sworn to daily protect and defend every citizen, their homes and communities in which they serve, regardless of the difficulties and dangers. And whereas there are over 900,000 law enforcement men and women officers serving in countless communities across the nation, including those officers in Utah County. And whereas, since the first recorded line of duty death occurred in 1791, more than 25,000 American officers had made the ultimate sacrifice protecting the communities they are sworn to protect, including 147 Utah law enforcement officers. And whereas in May of 2022, 619 new names of fallen heroes and dedicated public servants will be engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. And whereas the uniforms which were worn and earned with hard work, commitment, trust, and pride by these and all officers have, in recent months, become targets by those who seek to overthrow local governments, businesses, and to randomly injure or kill law enforcement officers simply because of their sworn profession and commitment to duty, honor, and service. And whereas on May 16th through the 20th, 2022 is designated as National Law Enforcement Week to remember and recognize and honor all peace officers of the law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Utah County Board of Commissioners are fixed in support of the families of the fallen law enforcement officers and stand firmly with officers currently protecting our county and those throughout the United States. Are resolute in support of the men and women in Utah County law enforcement who stand every day as guardians of peace and order to protect our homes, businesses, and places of worship, to stand in defense of the weak and the oppressed, and for the people's unalienable rights and freedoms. Encourages the people of Utah County to stand with law enforcement personnel to especially show their support throughout May 16th through the 20th, 2022, with the raising and posting the United States flag and law enforcement flags and symbols, and to thank officers and their families for their honorable service and sacrifices. They support the constitutional rights of all are maintained within our communities. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be transmitted by the county clerk to the Utah County Sheriff and to each mayor and all chiefs of police within Utah County, resolved, proclaim, and order this 4th day of May, 2022. And it conclude with a vote of all three commissioners in the affirmative. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's go get a picture.
Can we have Sheriff Smith say a word or two? I didn't ask him ahead of time, and he can delegate to someone who would like to
You want to say a
do
word or
that too
two?
if he chooses.
I get to choose someone to say a word?
Yeah, you don't have to do it. You can make one of them do it.
No, you know what? I thank you so much, commissioners, for the resolution. It does mean a lot to us. You're really not looking at a group that really wants accolades. They love the job that they do. It means the world to them to have their commissioners do this, to support them. But really, it just boils down to, you brought it up, in the community, just say hi, just, wave at them. That's all that, for me, I know when I'm out on the street, that makes your day, just to know that people see you and say, hey, thank you. But we're glad to do this job. And thank you for recognizing us on this day and for National Police Week, because it is those names that go on the wall. They have paid the ultimate sacrifice for this nation and for their communities, and we thank you for your support in that. It's a good thing we brought the good-looking ones.
That includes
You
Larry.
said the fellow handsome ones, I can see you.
That includes Larry.
Larry.
Make sure you can see all their faces. If you can't, let us know.
Okay. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Where do we look at? 1, 2, 3.
could circulate those pictures to Sheriff Smith so we can get them to everybody here.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yes, she is. I run the fur ball, he says.
Well, we should conclude today's meeting then with that. Okay. What we'll now do is go through the consent agenda is the next in line. But what we'll do is I'd like to, if we may, is have the work session first since we have guests here for this. And don't want to delay them. However, it might take a long time to get to them if we don't take care of it now. So with that, we'd like to introduce Saratoga Springs for the North Marina project. Do you have slides for this?
I think we've got 'em.
My name is Lars Anderson. I work for PEC. We're a consulting firm, engineering firm that is working with the city. This is Jeremy Lappin, Public Works Director. Do you want to say anything else?
No, just appreciate your time. Thank you.
And since the last time we presented at the work session up in Sundance, we tried to make a few clarifications because a couple things were pointed out. So we wanted to go through this presentation with you and then share some, I should say, more clarified information. This is the project. It's located on the north end of Saratoga Springs on Utah Lake, what's called Saratoga Road. And it's an area that the city now owns. They did not own it for many years, just a couple of years ago. How many years ago? 4 or 5?
No, just recently.
Oh, just a couple of years ago, okay. It does have a drainage easement through the site. It has an old harbor that no longer functions. It's been silted in. And our project that we'll explain is to improve this entire area. Utah County does have a trail that they maintain through the area as well. This slide was to show the service area. It shows how many units are being built around Saratoga Springs, that it's very densely populated in this north end, as well as Lehigh and Eagle Mountain residents come through this area. American Fork is close by. So this project would serve tens of thousands of residents, if not hundreds of thousands of residents that could come to the area to access the marina or access the lake. This is the slide that we showed up at the work session that maybe caused some confusion. The point of this slide was to show that the city has invested all around the lake. The majority of the investments have been in the north end of the lake. The North Marina is in the middle of that. That's project one. And then we have the shoreline trail that connects down to Eagle Park and then connects all the way down to the South Marina. That South Marina is currently operational, and currently the city is building a second jetty at the South Marina. It's under construction right now to provide an area for non-motorized recreation. And so the point of this was to show that the city's invested a lot of resources, and the county and the state, all the way around the lake. We then added this slide because we had some feedback that perhaps it wasn't clear what we were putting into this project. And so I hope this helps clarify what we're looking at. And the background of that is the proposed project, just a rendering of what it would look like at the north end. And so this slide shows that we estimate $35 million for the total project. This phase one, which includes the land, is about $12 million. So the TTAB request is 14% of the full $35 million project. We're requesting $5 million. The current matching funds equal $7 million. That includes the land that was acquired by the city, the fiscal year of $500,000, and a forestry fire and state lands grant of $500,000 that we received to be spent this year. So we're really hoping to get started soon. The future funding sources for future phases includes the state currently is studying the nature center, and the leading location right now is directly adjacent to this property on forestry fire and state lands property. and they're estimating 13 million to include. That's going through Representative Brammer currently. And then, of course, there's more city impact fees that'll come, and forestry, fire, state land grants, and UOR grants, and other state funding to hopefully take it to the next phase once we get a few things constructed. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think the project has a lot of momentum, and we're excited to get going on initial improvements and continue to pursue other funding sources. Like Laura said, we've already got some synergy with the state on this nature center, which could bring millions of more dollars of money towards this full 35 million, and hope we can get the full property developed as you see in this image, in the near future.
And the FSL grant, FSL represents what again?
Oh, forestry, fire, and state lands.
Okay. And for public information, TTAB means Tourism and Tax Advisory Board. So how do we use funds that are gained through when we buy a hamburger or a restaurant meal or whatever, hotel, rental car? So these are not additional taxes that are raised. It's existing tax revenue.
State lands, as you can see, already appropriated $500,000 this fiscal year, and we've already been in communication with them and expect additional appropriations in future years.
Okay. And that $13 million is state-funded nature center. The rest of us below that, the city and the FFSL grant, is that part of that $13 million?
No, those would be in addition to.
Okay.
Because there's obviously a gap for the $35 million project. If everything comes to fruition there, including TTAB, we would still be about $10 million short. So there is a shortfall. We recognize that. I think you pointed that out to us in our last meeting. We certainly know that. Yeah, it was well said. So hopefully this slide addresses your concerns.
Yeah, this slide shows about 30 projected costs, and then the estimated phase one, and the rest of it is about another 35 million. So it doesn't show the other 10 million that may be missing.
Yeah, there's a shortfall.
Okay. And the benefit to the community in that area and would be the economic balance and.
Go to the next slide.
Okay, this slide.
Yeah, and did you put the? We have a 3D fly through.
Yes, that's in here.
Okay. So as you'll see in this slide, and I think the fly through, we have a really a nice rendering. We feel what we're bringing here is something that doesn't exist anywhere on the lake currently. A facility that actually has beaches, a place for families to come and recreate, both on the lake, but also on the shoreline. And the economic benefit we feel would be attracting those people that maybe are leaving the county. Maybe they're going to Deer Creek, maybe they're going to Bear Lake, and they're spending their money outside the county because they don't have an amenity like this in the county that they can visit. And we really feel that we could attract them and get them to stay here and spend their money at our restaurants and our stores and our retail here, because this would be a facility that they, why drive an hour when I can come here to this facility? So we really try to think big and say, what can we really provide that's more than just a simple boat launch?
I didn't ask this question when you and I met earlier, but how close by are the nearest restaurants to this proposal?
Very close. Yeah, there's several on Pioneer Crossing, as well as the Smiths. What do you guys call the Smiths development?
It's called the Crossing. So in Saratoga, so the closest shopping center is basically like where the Meadows is in American Fork. Mm-hmm. This is rapidly becoming that. So I think just in the last 12 months, you've got Hobby Lobby, Sportsman's Warehouse, Zao, Dutch Brothers. I mean, this place is exploding. Those have all just come in the last 12 months. So it'll be very equivalent to like the Meadows type development. That's less than 5 minutes to the west of here. To go east, then you have a lot of stuff in Lehigh and American Fork. You have Lehigh Main Street. And then if you go north from here, you're just a stone's throw from Pioneer Crossing, which we believe will be the future site of the tracks, light rail. BRT first and become light rail. So this is also strategically poised to be very close to a future BRT/light rail station.
To add a little bit to that, a year ago, Memorial Day, we opened a state park, a new amenity at Willard Bay State Park. It's a beach park similar to this, but a quarter of the size. And the very day that it opened, it was full. They were turning people back. people are really wanting to get on the water, and a beach like this is very popular for that. I believe this is the...
And how, you said very close. How close are the restaurants to this marina?
Within a mile.
A mile, less than a mile?
Yep.
Existing, and obviously this area is rapidly developing, so we expect a lot more commercial to be developed in the near future.
So these are some images of the project. We created a 3D model, as Jeremy indicated, just to give you a feel for what the project could look like, and to get some excitement about what this area could be. Because if you looked at it now, it's not much. But what it could be is very exciting, including 2 different ramps, one for motorized vehicles and then one for passive recreation, paddleboarding that's non-motorized. However, in emergency situations, it could be used to harbor boats. That's one of the issues on Utah Lake, is when people go out and a storm comes up, they need a place to pull in while people are pulling their boats out, and they need a place to hang out while they wait out the storm. So this would provide that as well. I think this is the video. You know how to do it? Oh, thank you. I didn't know that. It's a little jumpy.
It won't be that choppy in real life.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Someone's streaming something. What's neat are these. I like these because you could actually pull your boat up and on the shore and picnic, or enjoy a group where your boat can be up on shoreline, kind of like you have at Pine View or Starvation or something like that.
What's useful about this site is that it's already naturally contoured to make a great beach park. So yes, there's going to be some effort to make the jetties and the harbors, but we're not moving a mountain of material to do it. We're dredging the existing harbor and then building another jetty and then building the beach park. It's naturally got a lot of pluses to it.
Actually, this year, the one silver lining to the lake being low would be this. We really feel if we could get out there soon, this would be the perfect year to dredge with the low water levels. Be much more cost effective to do it now than maybe in a wetter year.
Any questions about the video? And
What was the ask again from the county for the our portion of this?
$5 million.
$5 million?
Yeah. Okay. And we recognize that's a lot, and probably hasn't been given out very often or very easily, but it is a major regional project. The city is sponsoring it because they own the land and they're putting money into it as well, but it really is a draw for the whole northern part of Utah County and probably the southern part of Salt Lake County, if we don't exclude, right?
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit at the TTAB meeting, but remind me of what mitigation you will do to keep the algae out of this area so that the water can be used when we have algal blooms.
I mean, there's a couple things. Sure. Oh, yes. My apologies. Yeah, there's a couple of things, and it's the same strategies that we're doing at our other marinas. Obviously, we work closely with the Lake Commission, but internal to here, a couple of things we're doing is we're providing connecting underwater pipes. So in some of these swimming areas, in fact, we're actually under construction right now on a project you funded previously, our South Marina Beach. So we are making sure that the water can flow and you don't have a stagnant water by putting pipes underneath those jetties so the water can flow freely and you don't have one area that's more stagnant. We're also looking at the installation of aeration, so air bubble curtains. That really seems to be effective. That's probably one of the most effective things we can do is aerate the area where you're going to have the public. It keeps moving the water around. It also helps provide oxidation levels that discourage algae growth. And then the third thing we do, there are certain chemicals that are safe, algicides and things like that, that we can also use those if necessary. So we use them currently in our secondary water system. And they're pretty effective. We've not put them directly in the lake prior because we've been effective with our other strategies and not needed to, but they are actually even safe for drinking water. We don't put them in our drinking water, but they are, they're NSF certified, which means they're, very safe. Those can be used. Anything we do in the lake obviously would be in coordination with the Lake Commission, state lands, or everything like that. So there's probably more broad things that they're doing for the lake overall that are beyond the scope of our city. But we can do things in our specific facilities, as I described.
One advantage of this site as well is you can see from this image the accessibility to the harbor area, both the passive recreation and the active area where the boats are launched. We can access it with a long stick excavator, and that allows us to get much deeper with dredging and be much more thorough with the dredging to allow for depths of 12 to 15 feet instead of 5 or 6 feet, and that's a real advantage here for those that use it and for the boating that's not seen on the other harbors around the lake. This is kind of a working drawing you see of our phase plan because we wanted to show just what we think we could do with the money that you provide. And that is we'd get going on the jetty. Of course, the city's providing money and FFSL as well. Is we'd start with the jetties, get the infrastructure in and the boat ramps in as soon as possible. We might have to gravel the parking lots for now or something like that, but at least we could get people out into the lake, which is the main purpose of the money, of the funding, so that we can get people enjoying the sand beach, and then we'll have to build in the other amenities that are more park-like later.
Well, and actually, depending on the outcome of the nature center with the state, that is one thing. That $13 million, part of that does go towards their building, but we think that we're their #1 site right now, and they would be putting part of that towards building a parking lot. So hopefully, as that comes together, we actually can provide a paved parking lot and some of those things. With the nature center being located just off this property. So
How soon do you think you'll hear from the state?
I would defer to Mr. Eric Ellis for that.
We'll know this year which site is selected.
Okay.
And then the upcoming legislative session, we will be working with our representative to
Can't hear him online.
get that grant.
You'll need to come to the mic if you would.
So my name's Eric Ellis. I'm the Executive Director of the Utah Lake Commission. So this year we expect to hear and finalize the priority of the sites for the selection. And once we have that nailed down, we're working with the Division of Facilities Management and the legislature to seek funding for the construction of that building and the needed amenities nearby. So that could provide some of the restroom facilities, some of the parking that would really kind of match well and add to the completion of this project specifically.
So we won't know on the state part until after the legislative cycle is finished?
Correct.
Roughly?
Yep.
Okay. So about,
And that will be one portion of that. With all of the moving parts to this, there's a number of different grant sources that we will be seeking to kind of build out the funding so that $10 million gap can be filled. This is one of those that's a really important and strategic one that gets the project up and running. But as they've pointed out, it's a big project, and we have lots of interested parties that can help facilitate the funding of that. Thanks.
questions, commissioners?
So can you go back to the financial one again? I got some questions, and maybe before I get into that, we have the TTAB advisory board, which is made up of a lot of individuals that actually collect, that money, and they advise us. The state legislature put that together for a reason, so that we can, as a commission, do things other than what they do. But I think for the most part, we should listen to what they're saying and what they say. And as I listened to them on this project, they didn't feel quite comfortable. I'll just tell you, they didn't feel comfortable about this project. I don't think there was any vote. Was there a vote on it? I don't remember if there was a vote or not. But
I don't know if there was. Laurel, do
Was
you
there
remember if there was a vote in the TTAB?
There was a recommendation.
Was there?
It was
It's,
5, I believe, recommendation.
I don't know,
Was that the
2.5 or
recommendation? So
3.5.
they had some hesitancy in this project, and a lot of it stemmed from they didn't see the hard costs coming in on the city level. they wanted to see a little bit more hard costs. They saw some land that was given and so forth that was given to the city, but they didn't see any hard costs coming in. And then just an observation, and maybe I should say this: I love the look of this project. I mean, I think it would be fantastic. I love the lake. I love sailing on the lake. I love what's going on there. But I have to put the other hat on in looking at the funding and what we've done, what we continue to do, as we look at percentages and trying to make it work across, the entire county. And typically, when we look at funding, back to this, as you're adding up these dollar amounts, you're counting in the future funding sources for future phases that we don't have right now. So there's $13 million in there that we don't have. And I think it'd be really hard for us as commissioners to count that as part of the project when we don't even have that, because as we're well aware, as we look at different projects, they change. Sometimes they get scrapped, sometimes they modify, sometimes they reduce, sometimes they enlarge. And so it's really hard for us to take that as part of 35 million when it's future and it's not in hand. And there's some others that are probably not quite in hand yet either, as you're trying to work down through it with some of the gaps that you have there. And so the way that we have typically, not always, but typically have hedged against that is that we say we're the last money in. Not the first money in, because if we're the first money in, the project could be done. You can only get a part of it, and then we sit with maybe a parking lot and a couple. You know what I mean? We don't. So we have typically on contract said last money in. So after everything's been collected, then and we know that we have a project that's actually going to materialize. Just to hedge against that, we've been last money in. So I'm just kind of pointing those out because I felt that hesitancy from our tab board members who were talking about this project as well, and so I think there's some hurdles. Again, would I go there? Absolutely. I would love to go there. I'd love to sail into that harbor. I'd love to be able to go onto the beaches and and be there on a nice hot summer day. But I think there's still some hurdles personally that I think we have to overcome.
If I could just to address that issue, that this phasing map I think shows, hopefully, I recognize exactly what you're saying and appreciate that, and wonder if in this case you're able to be not the first money in, but in the middle. Because we could build a standalone project with your funds, which would include the new jetty and the dredging and the boat ramps, and get that constructed. So at least that shows other groups like the state that the county's invested and it's usable. It is a standalone project. It's not the grand park that we hope it is someday, but it does get something usable, something that's tangible, and the money goes to a good use. Whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I would reiterate what Lars is saying is we're giving you a project that is openable to the public as an amenity that, when completed with the current funding, is open to the public and is usable as an amenity on the lake. But we didn't want to think small. We know that $35 million facility was something that, certainly beyond the funding capability of the city as a standalone facility, and certainly is something that's regional. So obviously politically too, to ask, our taxpayers to fund the full 35 million, we felt maybe, wasn't palatable on a local political level. But we didn't think that was a reason to not even go for it, right? As far as have this grand vision and want this one day. We realized it was going to be a multi-phase, multi-year project. We didn't think it was feasible to do nothing until we had 35 million because, as you know, construction costs increase, and if we took the 5 or 6 or 10 years, whatever it took to build a 35 million, now maybe it's a 50 million. So we didn't think that was going to be a successful approach to spend 10 years planning and fundraising. We thought that was more likely to make this project not happen than saying, okay, we can build this now, we can open it to the public now. This is what we can do with current funding, and we thought that was was going to be a more likely path to lead to this actually happening long term than waiting, as you discussed. So,
Sure. So what's not any in-kind stuff, but what's the hard costs or the hard money that the city's putting in? How much money is the city putting into this? Not necessarily what's been given to them like land wise, but I'm talking about not value of land, but hard money that the city's investing in this.
and I would, I guess, say that the land as a soft match has been my understanding that is an allowable match in kind. The city gave up considerable future impact fees, future densities. So while we talk about the city hard cash being 500,000, the FFSL hard cash being a little over 500,000 currently, there was a true cost to the city in getting this land. We had to give up, we had to give impact fee credits. So there's a direct loss to us of ongoing impact fee money. We had to give densities. So I would argue that the $6 million is a hard cost to the city, even though it's not necessarily money that can be built towards these, it's spent money, as you suggest, because we've tied up the land. I would argue that is a valid, if we look at the $12 million project, that is a valid matching use that did cost the city. We did give up revenue and density to acquire that.
But in essence, in the way of cash towards it out of city coffers, it's 500,000
This year.
On this first phase.
on this first
Right.
phase.
Yep.
Certainly, we know that there's going to be a lot more cash the city's going to put up towards this, and that's going to come primarily from impact fees and future development, and there will be considerable more money coming from the city in the future towards this. But we, again, as opposed to delaying this project and seeing, just in the last year, construction prices have increased 30%. We believe we're pursuing a strategy that gives us the best chance of success.
And for whatever it's worth, maintaining it as well, which I realize isn't as big a cost, but something to be said for them willing to maintain it. Such a regional draw or attraction, if that helps at all.
Okay.
Commissioner Gardner, you have anything? Okay.
No, I don't. Not at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much for
Thank
coming.
you so much for your time and consideration.
Appreciate this very much.
I wonder, could you schedule a time with my senior policy advisor? I'd like to go through some more stuff with you. If that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. We'll now hear a presentation from the Tyson Food of the School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration. Tyson Todd, excuse me.
You had to be confused.
I must have food on my head or something, but Tyson Food? No,
Are you hungry?
Tyson Todd.
I get called Todd Tyson a lot because I have two first names for a name, but never Tyson Food.
Sorry for the insult.
No, it's okay. So thank you for the opportunity to come. I am Tyson Todd with the School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration. I'm out of the Vernal office, but Utah County is an area of responsibility that I have. I oversee the telecom portfolio across the state, and then land sales and other leases across the Uinta Basin and Utah County is where I cover. Purpose today is just to come and explain a little bit about the trust lands and then also show you a map of the proposed lands we're hoping to acquire from the Bears Ears Exchange. We downloaded a map a little earlier, and you can pull that up. So, the Bears Ears Exchange has been an issue for a couple of administrations now, and this most recent iteration is kind of a new beast in the fact that the Biden administration is working a little quicker to finish the exchange as compared to a standard exchange, which may take a decade or longer. UTTR exchange, the trust lands is done, took a long time. 7 to 10 years is on average what an exchange takes. So resource specialists like myself across the state are going out and trying to talk to local counties to explain what the lands are that we're targeting in their counties and to answer any questions that you might have. So on the map, you can see in the furthest northwest corner, there's some pink and dark blue sections there. Those two sections are slated to be transferred to the Camp Williams Military Reservation. They're within the camp, and this exchange makes sense for them to solidify the holdings within Camp Williams there. And then to the southeast, you can see Eagle Mountain number 9. That one is we're hoping to pick that one up for residential development. It's adjacent to existing trust lands parcels in that Eagle Mountain area that we've already commenced residential development on. And then going further to the south, number 10, Fairfield East is a potential solar development. And maybe right now might be a good time to interject and just say, we don't just pick these parcels out of the blue. We talk with business, we talk with local governments, we talk mining and oil and gas and agriculture and lots of different entities to identify these parcels for the purpose of increasing revenue to the trust and to help SILA fulfill its mandate. So if you can scroll further to the south for me to number 12, Lake Mountain 12 there is also a potential solar development. And then to the east, West Mountain 13, that's potential residential development. We understand in the past, Payson City has talked about getting a motocross there. And we're aware of that, and we're willing to work around our plans to have our plans work around to accommodate some of the wishes of Payson City for a motocross track in that area. And then 15, and this one's all the way down on I guess you can call it the toe of the Utah County boot. Further to the east, just a little bit more, please. Right there. So you can see that's pretty complex land ownership in that part of the county. Those 2 40-acre sections are currently BLM. That is surrounded by a private ranch. And oftentimes SITLA is a mechanism or a medium where federal lands can go to trust lands, and then we can go through our process to sell those to private surrounding landowners or whatnot. So those are the parcels, the 5 parcels in Utah County that the trust lands is identified to potentially trade into if the Bears Ears exchange continues on and happens. So, and just as part of this is the trust lands we're mandated with generating revenue. We have a different mandate than other federal land management agencies where we generate revenue that goes into a trust, and then the earnings from the trust go to fund public education, primarily amongst the different beneficiaries. And last year in Utah County, the trust dispersed $19.2 million to local schools within the county, and those funds are all decided. The community council, the local community council, decides how those funds are used. So they bypass the school districts, they bypass the principal, and they go straight to the community councils that decide how to best use that money. So, I guess I want to pause first and see if there's any questions regarding those 5 parcels or anything in general regarding the trust lands.
Yeah, I have some questions. First off, anytime we can pull some of those federal lands away, I'm in favor of that in going through that process. In doing that, one of the concerns. Oh, and by the way, I sat with your dad at the conference, so I know your dad.
Okay.
He's a county commissioner over in Duchesne County, so
Yes, he is.
yeah.
So we have somebody to hold up for
welcome.
him?
Yeah.
Thank you.
My concern though is multiple in talking with those that are down in San Juan County. I mean, what I see going on with the Bears Ear stuff, first it's on, then the Trump administration starts to reduce it, and then the Biden administration blows it back up again. It's this whiplash, right. And after looking at the maps that Representative Lyman showed me, I don't even know how we would function in this county with that kind of whiplash stuff that's going on back and forth down there in San Juan County with, you're on, you're off, now it just seems like games all the time going on down there with federal lands. And it's appalling to me to see what's going on. So here's my concern as I look at that map down in San Juan County, which is kind of checkerboarded all the way around inside of Bears Ears. And this is land that is, I'll say the state owns, but the state owns through the trust. I have to make sure and get that the right way.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, but still, it's not public land.
Right.
A lot of people think that the Sitla land is public land. It's not public land.
Right.
And so with that, we've always talked about the Sitla land, which is all these little checkered parcels all over the place throughout the state from our enabling act. We have that. And we've looked at that in some ways as being a protection or a safety net for us against the federal government.
Right.
And so now we're looking at pulling out the safety net for San Juan County when they're being oppressed by the federal government on this, and we're going to say we're going to play with them and take a resource. I'm just stating it the way I see it, a resource from San Juan County that they have down there, and we're going to pull it up here, and we're going to make it part of our resource. I'll have a hard time looking in Bruce Adams' eyes and saying that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be hard. As soon as we pull out of that thing down there, then there's nothing inside the Bears' Ears to say they just can't run rapid out through the whole thing the whole time.
Right.
So that's a big concern for me.
Yeah, and that's a legitimate concern. The political football with the Bears' Ears is taxing. And Sitla's aware of that. Talked with Michelle McConkey and Chris Fawcett, who presented at the Utah Association of Counties meeting up in Ogden.
Mm-hmm.
Duchesne County, Daggett County, I've presented to them as well, and they share similar concerns. Michelle and Chris went down to San Juan County last week to talk with Bruce Adams and address some of these concerns. And in talking with Chris and Michelle, we're trying our best to use acre per acre valuation to equalize the acre per acre valuation by using San Juan County as that medium. And to date, we've identified 43,000 acres we're trying to acquire outside of the Bears' Ears, but still within San Juan County. That will go from federal BLM managed land to trust lands outside of the Bears' Ears designation. So we're trying to work with San Juan County
So over
to
and above.
remain them whole.
You're talking about over and above?
Yeah, so let's say you take out, the Bears' Ears boundary, there's 160,000 acres of trust lands within the Bears' Ears. We're trying to, the number that I received from Chris Fawcett this morning was we've identified 43,000 acres of BLM land that Sitla will acquire in San Juan County outside of the Bears' Ears boundary.
So that's taking federal land and bringing it state controlled.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So what about access? Because right now inside Bears' Ears, you have access to go to those lands because you own those lands inside that designated monument.
Right now we do, but when the exchange is over, everything that's trust lands in that boundary will become managed by the federal government. And then we'll try to take everything outside of it on BLM land, turn it into trust lands, those 43,000 acres.
Right.
Yeah.
So we lose that control.
You lose that control within the Bears' Ears. Traditionally the trust lands that's been in the Bears' Ears has been low, very, very low revenue producing land. There are other great characteristics of the land, cultural artifacts and recreation and those sorts of things that are important to the local community. From the trust lands perspective, not the greatest lands for us to maximize our portfolio because the revenue generating opportunities are lower, but we've identified those other lands that might be a mine or a solar farm or other way for the locals to use trust lands to generate revenue for themselves, but then also for the trust. And so, it's a balance of this land, from the trust lands perspective, this land that doesn't generate very much, to other lands that we've identified with our partners that say, hey, this would be good land for more economic-oriented pursuits, and then trying to put those on the map that would benefit San Juan County from more of an economic perspective, rather than the lands that have more of a recreational or cultural that are currently within the Bears' Ears right now. So kind of a balance there. But we're trying really hard to keep San Juan County as whole as we can, given the fact that we're also kind of beholden to the federal government that says, we're going to draw a line around this and your lands are in it. And we're just trying to maximize our revenue to do our fiduciary duty.
Yep,
to generate revenue
I
for
get
the school
that. I guess at some point in time, I think the state and us as counties, need to step up and say, enough's enough with the federal government when it comes to some of these lands. And I see this as an opportunity where we say, we have those lands inside there. It is inside your boundary of designation of a monument status, but we can go inside there and we can manage what we need to do. And so your designation is weakened quite a bit by this. And I get the value part if you can get double the value, but wouldn't it be nice if you got double the value and you were able to get some sort of control out of it as well?
Right. And
inside there instead of just turning it all over.
Yeah. And that might be more of a state issue or a local governance issue on how much access or control we have within that monument. Sitla's not, I don't know if it's our fight to fight with the federal government on what goes on inside the Bears Monument. But we do try to be good neighbors and work with everyone and try to say, okay, let's do the best we can if we're both beholden to the wishes of a political football in the federal government.
That land's as big as some of the small states back east.
You're right.
We're not talking about just a little piece of land. We're talking about a lot of land.
Right. No, I don't disagree with you there.
Well,
and it is difficult.
And I don't think the two are mutually exclusive, right? Your job at SITLA is to get revenue for the school children of the state. Right. And anytime we can take federally controlled land, i.e. BLM land, and turn it over to SITLA and be getting revenue for the children of this state, I think that's a win for the schools, the children, and the state. Right?
Right.
So, but I think, to Commissioner Lee's point, we can locally and as a state still fight back against federal control, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the job of SITLA. I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
And we, in the Obama administration, there was a lawsuit, and then, there's been litigation back and forth. And the trust lands in the past has said, as far as lawsuits go, we're just gonna stand back, and we're gonna let the state of Utah advocate for the state of Utah's interests, and the federal government's gonna do their thing. And then however the cookie crumbles, then we'll pivot from there. But in this instance where it's being pushed so hard, we feel like this is a good opportunity for the trust lands to be like, all right, hey, this looks like it's going to happen. There's a lot of pressure from Washington. Let's identify these parcels that help us maximize our portfolio and go try to make it work because it looks like it's going to go through. So it would, it kind of behooves us to get on the ball, I guess you can say, rather than wait back, not identify those good parcels, and then kind of be left without the opportunity to maximize our portfolio. So when we're here coming and asking for support and kind of showing these parcels, it's not necessarily that we're out in front of the federal government advocating for this exchange. We kind of recognize that there's a lot of momentum behind it, and we're just trying to take advantage of the opportunity while it's there in a timely manner rather than a decade-long exchange that takes lots of man hours, lots of time, lots of effort. And a streamlined process really would help the trust in the short run and in the long run for our beneficiaries. So sorry I cut you off.
No, I was going to say what you're doing is you're advocating for the perspective of SITLA,
right.
And you're not trying to intervene. You're just trying to take advantage of what you see in the horizon.
Right.
Anyone here that want to speak to this?
I asked Representative Lyman. He's actually the representative down there. If this is a work session, I'd love to hear his comments on this.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thanks, Tyson. Tell your dad hello for me.
Yeah, we'll do.
We're old commissioner buddies from back in the day, but I appreciate coming. I was showing my map, and I can break that up if we want to look at that. It might help for some illustration. Commissioner Lee was there, so he invited me to come over, so I'm glad to be here today and Appreciate you. So if Sitla's talking about pulling 160,000 acres of Sitla land out of San Juan County and keeping 43,000 in San Juan County, that's still a net loss of the 100 and whatever thousand acres of what to San Juan County is pretty precious kind of private property. We've got 8% private property in San Juan County, more than our neighbors to the west of us that have 3% in Garfield and Wayne counties. So when we see Sitla lands leaving the county, converting to BLM, would it be helpful if I pulled up that?
I think it would be.
Okay, I just it's a little bit cumbersome, but I think I can just show you real quick without doing too much.
I have to adjust the camera so you can see it better.
Thanks, Josh. I'll show you this map first because it's got the county without the overlay of land other than the reservation land on it. And then this, I'll just stick with this one. So this is
Make that the main screen. Pin that to be the main screen for the public to see it.
It's on there.
It is? Okay.
okay. So Commissioner Lee talked about the safety net, and if we look at this is we got reservation land at the bottom, National Park Service and Recreation Area, National Forest Service, LaSalle and Blue Mountain reservations. The yellow is Bureau of Land Management, and the blue are the state institutional trust land sections. And so when we say it's a safety net, it was given to Utah at statehood in a dispersed pattern. And that pattern, if we did the whole state, I did this map up for about 12 years ago when we were doing all of the public lands initiative. And then when Bears Ears came along, I've used it. So I've used this many times. And now that we're having the Sitla discussion, it's just been beneficial again to kind of illustrate where the Sitla lands sit and why we'd refer to that as a safety net. If I were playing the game of Risk and I had all of the yellow property, I would be motivated to get rid of all of the blue sections so that I would have control, so that I could have more leverage over that area, which is exactly the same thing that the BLM would like here, is to be unencumbered in their domain in that part of the state, which is exactly what we don't want, is for the federal government to be unencumbered in their domain. So those become pretty important to us, and I refer to them as the Sitla sections, or as the safety net. One bill that I would like to run, and I've started a bill file on it, would be to say that we do keep the counties whole. Not that we keep them pretty whole, we just say we keep the counties whole. If that were in place, that would say that whatever acreage exists in San Juan County, that acreage will continue to exist in San Juan County, but maybe in another spot. And that would force the trust to then go and find the value inside San Juan County. And, some have said that there's not a lot of value in these sections. But the truth is there's three major oil formations that overlap right in that spot. Not a lot of extraction has been done because for the last 40 years it's been in wilderness study areas, and so the BLM has already shut stuff down. But so there's not a lot of exploration that goes on there. But we have the nation's largest deposit of potash, which is value of that's gone up about 4 times in the last 6 months. We have one of the nation's largest, if not the nation's largest, deposit of helium out on the east side. So Sitla's looking at some trades there. We've got the surface right values, which are extraordinary out in those areas, which I think hold their value. In San Juan County, you've got the only private property. So this is Blanding. You've got a little bit of white there that's private. Monticello has a little bit of private property, quite a bit more than we do, but anyway, not a lot of private property, not a lot of tax base. We've watched our economy go from a production-based economy to a tourist-based economy, not by our choosing necessarily, but by the shutting down of all the extraction from the Bureau of Land Management at the behest of a lot of environmentalists and external groups. So when the monument comes in, we really would love it for Sitla to say, hey, we've got a lot of value in property out there, and we're going to fight with the county for that property, instead of leaving a county like San Juan County that has very little resources, one of the poorest counties in the United States, to try to fight that battle, and then to say, well, we'll see how it goes, and then we'll we'll pull those out. When we talk about the sitless sections, I love the swaps that Tyson showed up in Utah County, but Utah County also has sitless sections. If they wanted to swap, they could move some of their sitless sections around strategically without going down and I'm not saying Utah County's doing it, and sitless, I'm one of their biggest fans, so I promote them everywhere I go. But this is just kind of the lay of the land that we have when it comes to San Juan County.
So show them the bear's ears. They'll flip that over so they can see.
Okay. All but the last one there. So that the red is the bear's ears. Underneath that is other layers of national wilderness study areas, wilderness areas, national. I can't remember the term right off the top of my head. But then the bear's ears comes in on top of that, under the auspice of protecting bear's ears, which is already under layers and layers and layers of federal land. There's no protection that came from the Bears Ears Monument. In fact, the opposite happened. It invited a ton of visitation to, and now the biggest threat to the artifacts in that area is the amount of visitation they have. So that was a kind of a disingenuous thing. But what it did is it opened up the opportunity for trading out the sitla lands. And I guarantee if we validate the model for the federal government, if you want to take control of a place, just designate a monument and we'll swap out all of our interests there. We're going to see more monuments designated in Utah when we should be saying that's outside the scope of the Antiquities Act. It's an abuse of the Antiquities Act, and we should oppose it on the principle of it. And anyway, that's kind of my perspective on that. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Whatever the discussion is on the switch, San Juan needs to have a heavy voice in this whole discussion.
I did meet Michelle McConkey, and the previous director seemed much more anxious to get this done and do it quickly. She said, we made a mistake. We did not go through the due process. We are going to go back and look at it. And I think on the last iteration before the one that Tyson referred to, there was 17,000 acres that was remaining in San Juan County out of the 160,000 that was under consideration. So we've moved a little bit. My preference personally is to keep the dispersed pattern even through the monument, because monuments do come and go. We've seen that. Sitless sections, once they're traded, will never come back. But other commissioners are more in favor of blocking it up within the county, and we're not being selfish or greedy. If there's something that makes sense, we would support it. But the process really wasn't followed previous to now, and this Michelle's doing a really good job of trying to include us. So, thank you again.
Okay. Commissioner Gardy, have any questions?
No.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Okay, we'll now go to our consent agenda. And that means that we'll go through the list that's on the regular agenda and identify which ones that we feel that we have already reviewed and have no questions, and can put it on to consent and approve the items as listed. Thank you, Tyson. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Representative. Okay, we'll start with agenda items number 1 through 10. I asked Josh to touch on number 8 really briefly.
Yeah, thanks, commissioners. So this is just
After we finish this,
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry, I just mentioned you. Sorry.
So you're holding that one.
We'd like to hold on number 8, yes.
So I don't mind leaving 5 and 6 on. I just think that we need to designate that it's approved instead of just a statement. So if we put I don't mind leaving it on consent as approved for both 5 and 6.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I would concur with that.
Yep.
So we'll leave 5 and 6 as approved. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any others in 1 through 10?
No.
11 through 20?
So item number 20 to continue for 2 weeks.
Yep.
To May 25th, I understand. Okay. And 15, 16, 17, those are to mitigate issues and to reinvigorate those land areas. That's what those are referring to. Okay, so we'll continue number 20. 2 weeks. Number 21 through 30.
Can we hold number
31,
20?
excuse me.
Can we hold number 22?
22, yes.
Then I was told that we need to strike number 23, if that's correct.
That's correct. We're going to strike 23. I wanted to at least mention, I read through it, but I agree with everything in the document, but I understand there were some dust issues with orchard growers down there. And is that something we need to address at this junction for this particular contract? Yes. Maybe I should hold it and discuss
No, it's just
it.
the bond.
This is just the bond.
This is just the bond.
actual-
Okay.
So
Okay, so then I'll just go ahead and make the. I
yeah,
won't-
27 and 28 is just the upping of the bond.
Okay.
That happens about every 7 years.
Okay, so I won't ask to hold that one then. Okay,
Commissioners,
And then number 29, if we could also add the word approved to that one as well.
approved to number 29.
Commissioners. Number 26, I see Peter Brown is online. Maybe he can address whether that's ready to be approved. I know Paul Jones from my office has reviewed that one, but the note we got was it wasn't quite in final form. So maybe Peter Brown, maybe we should hold it so he can address it.
Okay, let's hold 26 then. Peter Brown.
Robert, we don't have any final contract to approve today.
So then let's just continue that for 2
Continue
weeks.
it. Yep, please.
Instead of holding 26, let's continue.
May 25th then,
Yep.
continue.
Thank you.
And for number 30 and 31, I wanted to point out to the public that these are grant funded through the end of December 2024. And these are trial periods to see how effective they would be. And if they are, then that would be absorbed into future budget cycles.
If needed.
Any other comments? Any other holds?
Well, we need to strike 32, 33, and 34, and 35.
Well, that's a good point. Unfortunately, no closed session, so we will do
Take a
that.
bow.
And none from civil and none from HR, I understand. So
Gosh, Rob, you're doing a good job.
32 through 35 will
Just take
strike.
credit. Just take credit.
It's all me. And then when it's not. So,
Alice, would you review what we just went through for us?
You bet. Okay, I have us holding, well, I'll note that we're approving on consent due to the wording, 5 and 6. We're holding 8. Apologize. Continuing 20 for 2 weeks, which is May 25th. Holding 22, striking 23. Continuing 26 for 2 weeks, which is May 25th. Approving on consent 29 because of the wording again. And then as far as closed meetings, we're striking 32, 33, 34, and 35.
Okay. Good. If no other comments at this junction, we'll go ahead and move into regular agenda item number 8. And I just asked, I went through it, I just want to make sure that anyone in the general public will understand the content of that agreement. Josh, would you address that?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioners. So as we prepare for, a fairly big election year, the 2022 year, and the primary, which is in June, we're looking at some of our needs from various vendors and different features and and support that we require. This particular contract with one of our existing vendors, Global Mobile, is for a communication platform with voters. So we currently use Global Mobile for a variety of communication with voters, where voters can actually text the elections office with different kinds of correspondence. This is an additional feature that this vendor offers, which allows voters to send us at the elections office tips or concerns about election security. Certainly, many in the community have concerns given various kinds of news and other controversy about election security. And we often get people who reach out, you know, whether it's questions or something they see or something they're concerned about or something they've heard. This will actually create a uniform platform for those voters to share something with us. This is kind of like a tip hotline in the vein of, if you see something, say something. And oftentimes voters will say, well, you know, a few years ago or a few months ago, I heard about or I saw this. And this actually enables voters to contact us immediately if they see something that is concerning, allows us to then look into that and resolve any concerns or solve any problems. So, for example, we'll have signs at our voting locations or stickers and decals on our drop boxes, so that voters know how to contact us if they have a concern or if they've seen something unusual or suspicious. And that's what this platform will enable us to do.
Any questions from the other commissioners?
Nope, we talked earlier.
In fact, I'll even put a plug in for what it is. So simply anybody would text the words Utah County to the number 45995. So if you have a concern about something you've seen in terms of elections, we can't be everywhere at all the time. So text Utah County to 45995. That's what this system will enable us to do, is to receive those and then look into those issues.
So spell out Utah County.
Yep.
On the text.
Utah County is
all
what
one
they would
word.
text. Mm-hmm.
And you're going to put this everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll have signs.
People will be able
and-
to see it and
exactly.
know where it's at. So.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yep.
That helped a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
We have a motion then on number 8.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 8.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that passes 3-0. Thank you, Josh. Okay, we're to agenda item 22. And these are taxed actions. And I reviewed them. Had a couple of questions I talked to the assessor about earlier.
So I asked this. This one was a continued one, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And as I reviewed this, and I guess trying to understand it a little better, on this rollback, there was a rollback. There was an estimate, and I realized these are estimates. The rollback, the Greenbelt rollback, and they're saying that it was only good until July 7th, and they tried to do something on July 21st, and they're short on their rollback. That's correct on it?
Right, that's correct.
And so, well, I think when we held it, the question was what's the difference between the rollbacks between the dates that they have, or is it just that they're going off that they were thinking it was the estimate, and then the final assessment came in, and it was more than they anticipated. If that's what I'm hearing, then that's a different conversation. But if they would have paid on July 7th, would they have paid a lesser amount?
What happens during this period of time, which we're entering now, is the assessment office is actually updating all the values for the current tax year. That brings a lot of unknowns into a settlement, because the tax could change at any time based on when the assessment office posts those values. Tax rates are adjusted for the year, all of that. So what we implemented over a decade ago is the way for them to go into this process knowing without uncertainty what these values are going to be in closing. So the estimate that you're talking about, we refer to as a worksheet, and we guarantee those values for 30 days.
That's to that July 7th.
So it expired in this case on July 7th, but not everything in a closing goes as scheduled. So apparently this one was continued, and then eventually they did close on it, but they closed after the worksheet had expired. And so they went into it assuming it was still good, but it had passed the 30 days, and that's how we fell into this.
Yeah. Okay. And the difference on that is from July 7th to July 21st. Is that, are my dates correct on that? From now that expired, and then because they're saying on their
Yeah,
application.
I'm
it
sure
says
there are some issues on the
21st.
closing, and that it just got extended beyond the original date that it was
So-
going to close.
That's 14 days. The
Yeah.
difference of that miss is $29,881.
So during that period of time, we're talking about 2021. Values are increasing, not as much as they are this year, which we're going to be doing the same thing again this year. By the time they closed, we had already posted the new values for 2021. So as you look at it, the rollback was originally from the 2016 year up to 2020.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Because of the timing, it actually shifted.
Yes.
So now they're
yes.
including a more current year with higher values.
Higher values.
So,
So I'm very sympathetic to that. I mean, I think that it's caught.
It happens. I mean, we implemented this process to bring a little bit of control on their side, because if with the worksheet and everything else, they would know what it is. But there are times when, in closings, you don't have a lot of control over some of the things that are happening.
Right.
And you get continuances and reschedulings and those types of things, which is probably what happened in this case. So whatever the commission wants to do on this, we're fine with. We just want you to understand that the estimations or the worksheets or whatever you want to call them were put in place to assist the title companies and the public in knowing exactly what that number is going to be when they go into closing. And it's just unfortunate in this situation that there's probably an extension beyond
Plus the year
that 30
shift.
days.
And the 5-year shift in it.
Yeah, the shift in the valuation years. So
For my part, I'm sympathetic to approve the request. The staff says deny because we did no wrong. We did not do any wrong. That's
Right,
correct.
right. No, that was.
But I'm for this
There's no.
short window change. I'm sympathetic.
yeah,
to-
this only occurs during June, July, in that time period.
And
May,
I
June,
think
July.
that as the individual's intent on this one, a lot of times we look at the individual's intent. When we look at voting, it's always their intent, right? Sometimes you see a little mark or whatever, and so sometimes you have to make determinations on intent. I think the intent on this one was to pay the rollback tax, and to pay the rollback tax going back to the 16. They were fully intending on doing that and got caught in this little weird flip that. Again, I don't think it's probably no fault. I know it's no fault on the county side, and probably on theirs they bumped into things that happened that they probably couldn't control. So it just got caught in a weird spot. So I would agree and probably would like to make a motion that we grant.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Well, we're in the middle of a motion.
Oh, then
Never
Never
let's see
mind.
if we get a second. I mean, you can always come in between after. So I'll make a motion that we grant this this appeal. Is that the proper wording for it? Let me look at it here.
22.
Yeah, 22 to grant the approval to waiving of that period in between.
I'll second the motion, but then you can come
You can
in.
talk.
No, you can talk. You can come up. Jeannie?
Come on up,
You
Janine.
can come up now. We haven't voted yet, so.
Okay.
We've made the motion in second, but we haven't voted yet, so you can.
So Jeannie Bowen with the treasurer's office. Just because it was a lot longer of a process,
So they even started things in June. They didn't even send us a check until September. So we didn't process this until September 13th. They would have included it, and their check did not even have, like it was just some serial numbers. So we would have even called them saying, hey, how much did you want on each one? And we would have informed them that things were not actually done, that they were just doing that. They didn't even get back to us again until then December, and then saying, oh, this really should have been on the rollbacks. And so because things were going so, I mean, it wasn't timely at all. And so in December, when they contacted us and then asked us to put it on the rollbacks, that is when it got, what they did to pay got applied. So,
Okay.
Anyway, but thanks.
Is that unusual for that long of a time to have the check come in?
So they'd cut their check back in June.
Yes.
And then they had held on to it until September. I would find that unusual for that long, but I don't know what was going on the back end, if they were having problems with funding this sale.
So we don't have an answer why the delay then?
I don't have an answer why
Okay.
they delayed. No.
Okay.
This was just June of last year.
This was last year, 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that it was a minimum of 3 months to even get an assessor out to your property. So they may have been, so in order for a sale to go through, you need an assessor, and hence why we have so many open positions for assessor here in the county.
I may want to qualify what Amelia's saying.
Not from our office, I meant
Not
from
from
like
our office. She's talking about
private.
appraisal for a bank.
Yeah, I'm
Where
talking
you
about
get
an
the
appraisal for a bank.
We had a
Yes.
lot of people looking like, were we there? But
No. I didn't mean from you. It was from an appraisal from a bank, correct. And if they were waiting on appraisal from a bank in order to have a sale go through, they could have, it wouldn't have been unheard of for them to have had to wait 3 months to get an appraisal from a bank. Not from Chris's office, who does an absolutely fantastic job.
it may take a long.
And the worksheet they do get from his office does specify that, letting them know it does expire and that they would have to redo that after those 30 days. So if they're reading it at all, it does let them know every single step they need to do. So.
Okay, is the motion firm then?
Yep.
I'm fine with
Okay,
that.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Thanks, Janine. Okay. We continued number 26, and we have no closed session items. Are there any public comments? Staff is welcome. I don't. You see any, Alice, online? Okay, then, final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
You're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.